social development for adolescents is there are a lot of big changes. So emotional lability, the happy 1 minute, upset the next, that quick flip-flops in emotions, it's very common in younger adolescents, especially. It tends to even out some as they get older. There are a lot of physical, psychosocial, and emotional changes going on. Plus, we've got hormones that are fluctuating a lot. And so those hyper emotional years are really common for both girls and boys. Stereotypically, we think, oh, girls hyper emotional, crying 1 minute, laughing the next, but boys also experience those big variations in emotion. Emotional reactions usually stabilize as they get older. So in infancy, the infant is focused. They don't really even see themselves as a separate being from the primary caregiver. So they're very focused on the parent and very attached. And we want to see strong attachment. And then as they move through childhood, children get gradually more and more separate and develop some independence. Adolescence is when they're ready, or they think they're ready, they're getting ready to become independent adults. Okay, so there's a struggle between parents and kids, and there's a struggle. The struggle often ends up being between parents and kids. The struggle doesn't have to be between the parent and children. It can be the parent helping the child deal with that struggle between independence and restrictions. They want to be independent. They want to make their own decisions. They often don't want the responsibility that comes with that. And so that's something that parents can help them deal with. Parents are still a primary influence, but there's often a lot of conflict in that relationship. The child wants to be independent. Usually the parent, a lot of times, is afraid of that child, of the risk of growing up. For one, they're worried about the risk that happens as kids grow up, or they want to avoid their child growing up. They're not ready to let go of that parent-child relationship. You'll hear adolescents frequently talk about everyone else's parents don't do this. You don't understand me. You don't trust me. In early adolescence, that drive for independence may look like almost completely rejecting the parent. If the parents say something, it's wrong no matter what. In later adolescence, that relationship may improve if the adolescent is able to achieve greater independence and the parents allow that and encourage that. An authoritative style of parenting is recommended. Boundaries with respect. The child is treated like a person with respect, but there are boundaries on their actions. Peer relationships change. They become stronger. They began to get stronger in the school age years, but now peers become a really strong influence, and they support the adolescent in seeking independence. School is often the center of social life, and kids that are connected in school, they're involved in activities, they have a friend group, are more likely to graduate and less likely to be involved in risk-taking behaviors. Cliques are common because belonging somewhere is important. Middle school cliques can be very mean. Kids are socialized a little bit more by high school, and there may be less overt meanness, but there still can be quite a lot of bullying. The best friend relationship is more stable usually than elementary. So around middle school, sometimes there's some ups and downs with that, but then by high school age, if they have a best friend, that relationship tends to be more stable. Activities that the kid is participating in tend to be less family-centered and more peer-centered. Lots and lots of kids, most kids spend a lot of time on social media. Social media has replaced in-person interaction in a lot of cases and for a lot of kids, and that has some pros and cons. Social media allowed kids to still have a lot of social interaction during, especially during times in the pandemic when they weren't able to be in-person school. But The distance of social media can allow for more bullying and also can decrease the amount of transparency and vulnerability in a relationship. And so it's harder to be real or it's easier to be not real in a social media setting. Kids are in sports, they're in arts, or in other extracurricular activities. That's other opportunities for developing peer relationships. There may be just social activities. They have jobs. So they have a lot more opportunity for socialization outside the family. And they're continuing to develop their view of the world as they're being exposed to different views. Okay, we're going to come back in the next section and talk about sexuality and self-concept.